What if Tensura melting the eternal frost? Author JackDaWeb on Wattpad. This story depicts an alternate timeline wherein Velzard attends Walpurgis after sensing Veldora's presence. She subsequently meets our protagonist and becomes interested in him after his display at the meeting. After thinking for a bit, she decides to move to Tempest and becomes a close ally of Rimuru. Rimuru and Velzard will sometimes be out of character, OOC, as it is unavoidable for this premise. Rimuru, our protagonist, will be more rational and have an actual spine. Velzard, she will not be as cold and ruthless as her canon counterpart. Since Velzard is missing significant characterization in the early parts of the series, the author decided to write his own interpretation of her personality based on the original light novel. Chapter 30, 5 Thoughts of the Future. Flash forward half an hour later. Rimuru's POV. In contrast to the earlier chaos, bickering voices, and thinly veiled plots, the remainder of the council session was far more dignified. Discussions were orderly, and decisions were decisive. It was a sharp turnaround, thanks to King Egil of Ingracia throwing his considerable weight behind Tempest. His open endorsement acted as a domino effect, and the other nations, one by one, fell in line. Such was the influence Ingracia held within the Western Council. After thorough negotiations and counteroffers, Tempest's fate was sealed with a resounding verdict, and my nation has been admitted into the council. The decision brought with it a tide of relief, though it didn't come without terms. For one, Tempest was now officially recognized as a sovereign nation. While this was a foregone conclusion to those of us involved, having it ratified on an international level was no small thing. The title opened opportunities for trade, cultural exchange, and technology sharing that had previously been tentative at best. Certain aspects, like the expansion of the Magitrain network and trade of our specialized equipment, remained under negotiation, but the progress made was a victory nonetheless. Second, our seat in the Western Council was secured. As planned, Tensura would represent Tempest in the council chambers. Her poise and commanding presence had already left a strong impression on the other delegates. Not that I needed their approval. My decision had been made well in advance, but their acceptance made things smoother. Lastly, in exchange for lending our military might to the Western nations and ensuring the Eastern Empire's activities were kept in check, Tempest was placed in charge of the Western Army. It was a heavy responsibility, but no one doubted our supremacy in military strength. The West was willing to follow our lead, trusting us to safeguard their collective future. Challenges would undoubtedly arise in the days ahead. Politics rarely allowed for smooth sailing. Yet, with this milestone achieved, Tempest's path toward greater influence had grown a little clearer. The fewer enemies I had to fend off on all sides, the better. After the session concluded, I exchanged a few pleasantries with the counselors. Now that the earlier spiritual interference had been dispelled, they were more agreeable to speak with. While a few still harbored personal agendas, none were irredeemably corrupt. It was refreshing, if only slightly. As we exited the meeting hall, my thoughts turned to lighter matters. Shuna and Tensura walked beside me, their presence grounding. Sao had already dealt with the assailant responsible for the attempted assassination. The culprit was a member of the 10 Great Saints named Glenduit Lai. Hinata was now undoubtedly interrogating the conspirator with her gentle approach. It couldn't have been easy for someone to lead a group, only to discover one of her own had been plotting behind her back. Shuna's gentle voice broke me from my musings. "Where are we headed to next, Rimuru-sama?" she asked, her tone curious and expectant. A grin crept across my face. "Heh, we're going to the jewelry store. If I'm not mistaken, you two visited it earlier during your exploration, right?" I replied, glancing between the two of them. Their nods confirmed it, and the anticipation in their expressions encouraged me to elaborate. "There's something I want to buy there," I added, and their eyes widened slightly. "I didn't think you were into jewelry, Rimuru-sama," Shuna remarked, her soft giggle warming the atmosphere. I chuckled at her assumption. "It's not for me," I clarified, amused by the curiosity now sparking in her gaze. Testarosa's thoughtful expression betrayed her quick deduction. Within moments, her ruby-red eyes lit up, and her smile hinted that she had solved the mystery. "Is it perhaps for Velzard-sama?" she asked, her tone a blend of curiosity and confidence. Spot on. I was a little surprised Shuna hadn't guessed it sooner, given how obvious my relationship with Velzard was to those paying attention. Perhaps she'd simply overlooked the possibility. Regardless, I snapped my fingers and pointed at Testarossa with a grin. "Exactly. While I didn't get a good look at their wares earlier, they seemed to carry some high-quality pieces. I figured since we're here, why not get her something?" I said with a casual shrug. Shuna's eyes sparkled with excitement at the revelation, while Testarossa simply nodded, a satisfied smile on her lips. "That's a wonderful idea, Rimuru-sama. I've noticed Velzard-sama always wears a pendant. I'm sure she'll treasure anything you pick for her," Shuna exclaimed, her enthusiasm evident. I chuckled at her earnestness, already imagining Velzard's reaction. If nothing else, it would be worth seeing her flustered expression. Though knowing her, she'd hide it behind a confident smile. Still, the thought of surprising her with a heartfelt gesture made the prospect all the more enjoyable. "We could recommend a few picks for you," Testarossa offered, her confident smile radiating assurance. "Shuna and I spent a considerable amount of time browsing the store earlier," she continued. "Please do. I'm not too versed when it comes to jewelry," I admitted, scratching the back of my head. Their determined nods gave me all the reassurance I needed. "You can count on us, Rimuru-sama," Shuna affirmed, her voice full of conviction. I nodded gratefully, relieved to have their expertise guiding me. The three of us walked in comfortable silence. My gaze wandered, once again captivated by Ingracia's remarkable city planning. For a kingdom with such a dense population, the streets were anything but congested. Broad cobblestone roads stretched out in perfect symmetry, lined with orderly rows of buildings boasting classic medieval architecture blended with subtle modern touches. Tall, well-maintained lampposts stood at regular intervals, their intricate ironwork casting a regal charm. Every corner seemed to flow seamlessly into the next, creating a sense of harmony and balance that felt almost utopian. It was this kind of ingenuity I aspired to bring to Tempest someday. Wide, welcoming streets, thoughtfully designed districts, and space that never felt stifling, no matter how many people filled it. If Ingracia could accomplish this, surely I could do the same, especially with the resources and talent at my disposal. Before long, we reached our destination. The jewelry store's elegant facade was nothing short of impressive. Carved marble columns framed the entrance, and above the polished glass doors, a golden sign gleamed with the name of the store etched in a graceful script. I was glad we still wore our formal attire from the council meeting. In my old world, entering a high-end jewelry store in anything less than sharp, professional clothing would have felt out of place. The guards stationed at the entrance straightened as we approached, their expressions neutral yet respectful. With a synchronized bow, they opened the doors without a word. The shift in atmosphere was instantaneous. Warm, ambient lighting bathed the interior, creating a cozy yet sophisticated aura. The polished mahogany floors gleamed underfoot, and the faint scent of sandalwood and lavender lingered in the air, subtle but calming. Glass display cases lined the walls, each one housing an array of dazzling jewelry that sparkled under the strategically placed lights. From shimmering diamonds and vibrant emeralds to deep blue sapphires and fiery rubies, each piece seemed to radiate its own unique charm. The craftsmanship was extraordinary. There were necklaces with intricately woven gold chains, bracelets adorned with delicate floral patterns, and earrings that seemed to dance as they caught the light. Even for someone like me, who wasn't particularly drawn to jewelry, it was hard not to appreciate the sheer artistry behind every piece. As we admired the displays, a lady approached us, her posture poised and welcoming. The warm smile on her face exuded professionalism, and her voice carried a refined, yet approachable tone. The three of us turned to face her, and with a graceful bow she greeted us. "Good afternoon, and welcome to Eterna Jewelers. Is there something I may assist you with today?" she asked, her tone light but with an air of enthusiasm that made her seem genuinely eager to help. "Good afternoon as well," I replied with a polite nod. "I'm looking to find something special. My two companions are here to help me decide, but I'd appreciate any suggestions you might have," I added. Her eyes lit up with curiosity, and her smile took on a slightly playful edge. "If I may ask, are you perhaps choosing a gift for someone important?" Her voice remained respectful, though the subtle teasing lilt was hard to miss. "Ha ha ha, you could say that," I confirmed, a chuckle escaping me. Her enthusiasm seemed to grow at my response, her professionalism blending seamlessly with her genuine excitement. "In that case, I have just the pieces in mind," she said, her confidence and eagerness shining through. "Please lead the way. In the meantime, could you two also have a look around and see if anything catches your eye?" I turned to Shuna and Testarossa as I spoke. "Of course," Shuna replied with a light bow, her tone calm and elegant. "Certainly," Testarossa affirmed, her voice equally composed. Thankfully, they hadn't mentioned my name outright. I could only imagine the stir it might cause if the store staff realized a demon lord was casually browsing their jewelry. As my two companions began exploring the store's collections, I refocused on the attendant, who gestured politely for me to follow her. "Right this way, sir," she said with a gracious smile. I trailed behind her as she led me to a display case located near the center of the store. The lighting here was slightly dimmer, which only enhanced the brilliance of the jewelry within. At first glance, it was clear that these pieces were tailored specifically for couples. The display showcased an exquisite selection of matching sets. There were necklaces with delicate pendants designed to interlock, bracelets with intricately engraved patterns that mirrored each other, and rings crafted with gemstones cut to form two halves of a whole. Each piece seemed imbued with an aura of intimacy, perfect for symbolizing a close bond. "Here we have some of our most popular selections," the attendant explained, her tone professional yet friendly. "These matching designs are particularly favored by couples seeking a meaningful connection through their jewelry. If you're looking for something unique, I'd recommend the pendants. They're crafted to represent the complementary nature of two individuals. Or perhaps the bracelets, which symbolize unity and mutual strength," she continued. "Perfect, exactly what I had in mind." Immediately, I ruled out any necklace or pendant from consideration. Velzard had never once removed the pendant she always wore. While I had yet to ask about its origin, it was easy to discern its significance. I'd often seen her fingers brush against it during moments of deep thought or quiet reflection, as though it were a lifeline tethering her to something profound. A replacement or addition simply wouldn't feel right. That left the matching bracelets as the next viable option. Back in my previous world, couples often wore such bracelets as symbols of their connection, especially when distance separated them. It was a simple yet profound gesture, and these bracelets were far superior to any I'd seen before. They were crafted with an elegance that elevated them from mere accessories to works of art. As for the earrings, I had noticed several exquisite pairs in other display cases earlier. While I didn't imagine myself wearing earrings to match, that didn't make them any less appealing as a gift. Their intricate designs and radiant gemstones would undoubtedly suit Velzard, complementing her regal demeanor. If I chose this route, I'd buy them with her in mind alone. Matching wasn't necessary when the goal was simply to get her a nice gift. I turned back to the case, the options laid out before me. My gaze lingered on the bracelets, tracing the fine details etched into their golden chains. Finally, I broke the silence. I'll sadly have to cross off the pendants. My lady already wears one that's incredibly important to her. I'm thinking of either these matching bracelets or perhaps a pair of earrings from the other displays. I explained, and the attendant nodded, her demeanor professional yet warm. That is not a problem, sir. We have an extensive selection of both matching bracelets and earrings for you to choose from, she assured me. I scanned the bracelets more carefully until my eyes landed on a specific pair. Each bracelet was centered with a singular, gleaming diamond. One was pure, crystalline white, while the other was a rich, enigmatic black. Intricately woven golden chains framed the diamonds, their design almost organic, like intertwining vines that culminated in the perfect cradle for the gemstones. The white diamond immediately reminded me of Velzard's impenetrable barrier, snow crystal. It conjured a shimmering wall of countless minute white crystals, so pristine they resembled the finest diamond dust. The bracelet seemed an embodiment of her barrier's elegance and unyielding strength, a radiant symbol of her unparalleled beauty and might. The black diamond, on the other hand, spoke to my own powers. It was a striking match for my skill, god of the void, Azathoth. There was nothing darker or more absolute than the void, and the infinite abyss where even light could not escape. Azathoth's power to draw in and annihilate matter mirrored the black diamond's allure. It was an odd metaphor, perhaps a bit fanciful, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this pair of bracelets symbolized the two of us perfectly. Velzard was unyielding and radiant, and I myself am enigmatic and all-consuming. Together, they represented both contrast and unity. While my comparisons might be reaching, I couldn't help but think that these bracelets were the perfect choice. "That pair of bracelets seems promising," I said, pointing at the matching set. The attendant's eyes lit up with delight as she moved toward the side of the display containing them. "You've got a good eye," she praised, her enthusiasm bubbling over. "These bracelets have been among the most sought after by royalty. It's rare to find a pair of white and black diamonds that complement each other so perfectly," she explained. It wasn't surprising that royalty would covet this particular pair. They exuded an air of refinement and exclusivity, their craftsmanship evident in every intricate detail. I nodded thoughtfully, taking in her words. "Quite promising, I must say, but I'd like to take a look at the earrings before making a final decision," I told her. "Certainly, right this way," she replied, her tone as cheerful and accommodating as ever. With a graceful gesture, she turned and began leading me toward another display cabinet. Following shortly behind her, we arrived at the section showcasing earrings. Rows upon rows of glittering pairs greeted me, and each set was unique in design and allure. There were dainty studs embedded with tiny sapphires, emeralds, and rubies, their colors gleaming under the warm lights. Some earrings featured intricate dangling chains adorned with gemstones cascading like miniature waterfalls. Others were bold statement pieces designed to turn heads and command attention. Among the myriad options, my eyes were drawn to a particular pair. The earrings were simple yet striking, adorned with a single diamond each. These diamonds were unlike the ones I had seen so far. Instead of the usual radiant white, these were nearly perfectly clear, their facets catching the warm glow of the room and scattering it in a subtle, mesmerizing display. It was as if the diamonds held a piece of the store's ambience within them, refracting light like frozen drops of starlight. I couldn't help but smile as I took in their beauty. Something about them reminded me of Velzard. I had already begun associating her with the image of a diamond. It was a fitting parallel the more I thought about it. A diamond was an emblem of unyielding strength, capable of withstanding incredible pressure without breaking. Velzard's power and resilience were no different, her presence as unwavering as the hardest known material. And yet, a diamond was also a symbol of elegance and beauty. Its brilliance captivated the eye, its allure a testament to perfection. In the same way, Velzard carried herself with an air of regality and grace that could leave anyone awestruck. If I were to describe her in another way, it would still lead me back to this comparison. Velzard was strong and unbreakable like a diamond, yet undeniably radiant, her beauty tempered by her inner fortitude. This pair of earrings, with their subtle brilliance and delicate clarity, seemed almost made to reflect her essence. It was a difficult decision to make, but fortunately, I wasn't in any rush. "All of these are excellent choices so far," I muttered, the final choice forming in my mind. "But from what I've seen, I believe the best option would be the pair of bracelets you showed earlier. If they're as sought after as you said, then I'd be glad to be one of the few who managed to get my hands on them," I said. The attendant let out a soft giggle, her tone light and teasing. "The person you're talking about must be incredibly special to you then," she said. "Heh, you have no idea," I replied, unable to hide the grin spreading across my face. Her smile brightened at my response. "You chose wonderfully, sir. That pair of bracelets will surely convey your feelings perfectly," she assured. "Thank you. If it's all right, I'll go check on what my companions are looking at," I said. "Of course, sir," she said warmly, giving a slight bow. Returning the gesture, I turned and headed toward the ring section where Shuna and Testarossa stood. As I approached, I noticed their captivated expressions as they inspected the intricate jewelry. The rings in this section were masterpieces. There were delicate gold and platinum bands adorned with dazzling gems. Some were simple yet elegant, while others were lavishly encrusted with clusters of diamonds, emeralds, or sapphires that seemed to catch and hold the light in mesmerizing patterns. "What's gotten you two so focused?" I asked, my voice teasing as I came to a stop beside them. The two turned to face me, their expressions alight with excitement. "You should get a ring for her, Rimuru-sama," Shuna suggested, her voice hushed as if revealing a grand secret. "I agree," Testarossa chimed in with a decisive nod. "I'm sure Velzard-sama would treasure it," she said. I blinked at the two of them, tilting my head slightly. Their suggestion took me completely off guard, and I couldn't stop the chuckle that slipped out. "You do realize these are engagement rings, right?" I asked, crossing my arms with a playful smirk. "Indeed, that's exactly why it would be the perfect gift for Velzard-sama," Shuna replied with such earnestness that I couldn't tell if she was serious or just clueless. "Wait, hold on a second. Do you even know what engagement means?" I asked, the confusion evident in my voice. "It's way too soon for that," I added. As I looked between the two, my inner panic began to spiral. Does she even know we're dating? It's not like Velzard and I had gone out of our way to make it public, but I guess we hadn't been subtle either. Still, we've only been official for a little over a week. To my growing dismay, both Shuna and Testarossa tilted their heads simultaneously, their eyes filled with exaggerated innocence that was anything but convincing. "Aren't you planning to ask her to be your wife, Rimuru-sama?" Shuna asked with a sincerity that felt more like a trap. I froze, her question hitting me like a sudden gust of wind. My composure crumbled instantly, and I felt my face heat up. "Where'd you get that idea?" I stammered, flustered beyond belief. The two exchanged knowing looks before turning back to me, their expressions a mix of humor and feigned thoughtfulness. "Forgive me if this sounds rude, Rimuru-sama, but aren't you and Velzard-sama? You know, like that?" Shuna asked, her tone brimming with innocent curiosity. "What do you mean that?" I shot back, crossing my arms defensively. Testarossa, who had remained quiet for most of the exchange, let out a soft giggle, clearly enjoying my predicament. "Although I'm new to Tempest, it was one of the first things I noticed when I arrived. I was surprised to see it myself," she remarked, her words deliberately vague. "Oi, what do you mean?" I pressed, my frustration mounting as her grin widened. Now their mischievous smirks were fully on display. Shuna, normally so kind and reserved, had a cheeky glint in her eyes that I wasn't used to seeing. "Your relationship with Velzard-sama," Testarossa finally clarified, her voice dripping with playful confidence. My mind raced. How could they know? Sure, Velzard and I weren't exactly hiding our dynamic, but I was certain no one knew about our official status yet. We've noticed a change in the last week, Rimuru-sama, Shuna added, her voice faltering slightly as if embarrassed to admit it. Huh, I blinked, unsure how to respond. It became something of a noteworthy topic among us whenever you two weren't around, she continued, her tone shy, as though confessing a secret. Connecting the dots wasn't difficult. In fact, we, the executives, concluded that you and Velzard-sama had gotten together, Testarossa said, her tone far too casual for the bombshell she just dropped. My face turned even redder as their words sank in. They know now. Was the shift in our dynamic that obvious, or was it just me? Crap, I was planning to reveal this to them properly. To think they'd already come to such a confident conclusion. Sai, it's rather obvious, Rimuru-sama. I know. With no route for escape, I sighed in defeat, accepting that resistance was futile. After taking a deep breath, I decided to lay everything out. You guys are spot on. In fairness, we weren't exactly subtle, I admitted, dropping the bombshell. Unsurprisingly, their expressions didn't change much. It was clear they'd already pieced it together. I was planning on revealing this at a later date, but I guess that's kind of meaningless now that you all know, I added, slumping my shoulders in exaggerated defeat. Shuna and Testarossa exchanged knowing smiles before giggling softly at my predicament. It's not meaningless, Rimuru-sama, Shuna said, her tone shifting to one of sincerity. In fact, it would be quite the monumental reveal for Tempest, she continued. Indeed, Testarossa added, nodding in agreement. Even if we already knew, it would still mean a lot for you to confirm it for us, but there's no need to rush, of course. Her voice was gentle, and her reassurance, while thoughtful, still carried an undertone of amusement. Thanks, I guess, I replied, straightening up and scratching the back of my neck awkwardly. Phew. That makes you the third person who's managed to charm a true dragon, Testarossa teased, her tone lilting. The statement immediately caught both my attention and Shuna's. I raised an eyebrow as the earlier embarrassment and sense of defeat melted away in an instant. Third, I echoed, the curiosity evident in my voice. Of course, Testarossa began, clearly enjoying the moment. There was the person who charmed Veldora-sama himself. She is the mother of Milim-sama, she said, and Shuna and I both nodded. That was a given. Considering that Milim is the daughter of Veldora, that means someone had to have been his partner in the first place. And then there's the Emperor of the Eastern Empire, Rudra Nam ol Nazca, she continued. While it remains a secret to most of his people, I've been able to gather intel in the past. His partner is none other than the scorched dragon Velgrind, she said. My eyes widened slightly. So the Eastern Empire's emperor has Velgrind on his side, huh? I muttered, my mind already analyzing the implications. Brushing aside the fact that he managed to charm a true dragon, this was crucial information about the Empire's power. If Velgrind herself was one of their key figures, that made the Eastern Empire a far more dangerous entity than I'd initially thought. This information was valuable. Velgrind's presence alone explains the Western Council's increasing anxiety about the Empire. A being of her caliber would make a formidable ally or an even more formidable enemy. Interesting. The Eastern Empire is certainly formidable. I suppose that explains the growing anxiety of the Western Council when it comes to them, I said, my tone shifting to a more serious one as I processed the information. I quickly shook my head, pushing those thoughts aside. Regardless, things should be fine, I added, shifting my demeanor back to something lighter. Now wasn't the time to dwell on political conflicts or threats. My attention turned back to the rings on the display case, their intricate designs glimmering under the soft light. The variety of rings was impressive. There were bands crafted from gold, platinum, and rare metals, some understated and elegant, while others boasted extravagant settings adorned with radiant gemstones. Rubies, sapphires, emeralds, and diamonds sparkled in a dazzling array, their colors and cuts mesmerizing. One ring featured a sapphire the size of a marble set in ornate gold filigree, while another showcased a cluster of tiny rubies, arranged like blooming petals. But as my eyes scanned the display, I found myself drawn to a ring with a single, perfectly clear diamond. Unlike the white diamonds I'd seen earlier, this one was utterly transparent, its sharp edges refracting the light into faint rainbows. The simplicity of the design highlighted the purity of the gem, making it feel both regal and timeless. Once again, I found myself associating Velzard with the idea of a diamond. Strong, unyielding, and undeniably radiant. My lips curled into a small smile as I considered the choice. "Well, since you two have convinced me, I might as well get the ring in advance," I said, unable to hide my grin. "Excellent, Rimuru-sama," Shuna exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with approval. With a nod, I called the attention of the lady who had shown me around earlier. Smiling happily, she strode over to our spot, and I pointed at the ring of my choice. She looked at the ring, then back at me. Weirdly, her expression shifted into a mix of confusion and concern. I stared back at her, slightly confused, until she broke the silence. "Pardon, sir," she began, keeping her voice professional. "But do you mean to buy both this ring and the pair of bracelets?" she asked, and I nodded, already certain of my decision. I'm assuming she's worried about the cost of both items, but that wouldn't be a problem for me. Even with the extravagant nature of these items, it's still a trivial expense. "Well, that's certainly not a problem. However, I'd like to inform you of the total price beforehand. Will that be all right?" she inquired, her tone polite yet carrying a hint of concern. "Sure," I replied with a casual nod. "I appreciate the heads up," I said. She bowed lightly before heading behind the counter and through the door at the back, presumably to consult her higher-ups about the total cost. While she was away, I decided to quickly run some calculations in my mind. Taking into account the quality of the jewelry, the gemstones, and the design, each of these pieces was clearly a high-end luxury item. If I were to estimate, the total cost of the two bracelets and the ring would likely fall between 200 and 400 silver coins, depending on the region. Precious materials like diamonds and the intricacy of the design would push it closer to the higher end of that estimate. Labor and additional expenses such as transportation also factor in, but it's not something I would lose sleep over. A few minutes later, the attendant returned, carrying two small, elegant boxes in hand. Each box was wrapped in a rich velvet cloth, the deep blue color making the gold detailing on the edges shimmer under the store lights. As she carefully set them on the counter, I could tell these boxes were made with as much attention to detail as the items they contained. "Here are your selected items, sir," she said, her voice more neutral now, no longer weighed down by her earlier concern. The boxes, while simple in shape, felt heavy with the promise of quality inside them. A small part of me couldn't help but appreciate the care and precision with which they were presented. "What will the total be?" I asked, my voice casual. "The total cost of these two would be around 300 silver coins," she said, her tone carrying the same professionalism as before. My estimate was right on the mark. "That is fine," I replied, nodding happily in response. I reached into my pocket, which was, of course, empty, but it was where I'd access my imaginary space without raising any suspicions. It would look far too odd if I simply pulled out gold coins from thin air. Carefully, I retrieved 3 gold coins and placed them on the counter, gently sliding them across. Immediately, the attendant's eyes widened in surprise. While the total cost of my purchase was already quite expensive, I'm guessing she wasn't expecting me to pay in full gold coins. "W8, The lady stammered, her surprise palpable. I let out a chuckle, enjoying her reaction. Do you have anyone who can examine these? I can wait, I replied, my voice playful. She nodded, still in shock that someone was carrying around full gold coins, which wasn't common. I'll call them here at this moment, she said, and I nodded in acknowledgement. I left the 2 boxes at the counter, and my companions and I made our way to the nearby couch to sit down. While I could have definitely paid with silver coins, it would have been suspicious that 300 of them managed to fit inside my pocket. No, gold coins were the way to go here. They were less common but far easier to account for. Rimuru-sama, if you're planning to be engaged with Velzard-sama in the future, then that can only mean one thing, right? Shuna asked, keeping her voice low. Turning to her, I raised an eyebrow. Yeah, what is it? I asked. A marriage, of course. It would be the biggest event in Tempest, even bigger than the founding festival, she explained, her voice filled with certainty. I hadn't thought about it that way, but as I processed her words, it became clear that Shuna was right. When the day came that Velzard and I tied the knot, it wouldn't just be a marriage. It would be a historic, world-altering event. It would undoubtedly be the most grandiose occasion Tempest had ever experienced, far surpassing the magnitude of the founding festival. Indeed, it would change everything. The union of a true dragon and a demon lord. It's not something that happens every day, Tensura added, her voice sincere, her usually playful tone gone. Their words struck a deep chord within me. It wasn't just a personal milestone. No, it would be a defining moment for Tempest, something the world would remember for centuries to come. The sheer gravity of it all hit me like a wave. At the same time, it would be the coronation of Tempest's new queen, Tensura continued, her words still carrying that unshakable earnestness. They made solid points. While it wouldn't happen immediately, probably not in the next few months, it would be an event that signaled a major turning point in both our lives and Tempest's future. This would be the moment when our world would change forever. Yeah, I said, reclining my head against the couch, my mind wandering. The light from the shop bathed me in a warm glow as I gazed at the ceiling, deep in thought. The atmosphere of the shop felt cozy. The soft ambient lighting mixed with the faint scent of polished wood and rich velvet from the boxes. It was peaceful, almost surreal, but the quiet didn't last long in my mind. But I do look forward to it, I added, a warm smile spreading across my face. Shuna and Tensura both nodded, their eyes filled with determination and hope. They knew just how important this event would be, not only to me but to everyone in Tempest. Then Tempest will ensure it goes down in history as the most memorable event, Rimuru-sama, Shuna declared, her tone low yet confident, her unwavering resolve echoing in her words. I closed my eyes, my smile unwavering. Was it too soon to think about marriage? Absolutely. But there was no harm in preparing for the future, and looking at how far Velzard and I had already come, I knew this relationship had the potential to go even further. We were building something much bigger than ourselves. Our bond was already monumental, and if we kept going on this path, the wedding would just be the beginning of something even more extraordinary. The idea of marrying Velzard wasn't just about us. It would be a union that would ripple through time and space, altering the very fabric of this world. After all, a marriage between a demon lord and a true dragon was unheard of. The implications were as grand as they were powerful. Excuse me, sir, we've checked the gold coins and confirmed their validity. The attendant's voice brought me out of my thoughts. Straightening up, I stood tall, feeling a renewed sense of energy and purpose. The weight of the upcoming event seemed even more monumental now, but I was ready for it. Well then, I suppose only time will tell.